That pull you felt when you saw this title wasn't coincidence. That subtle vibration at the base of your spine, that immediate knowing, your body recognized something your conscious mind has forgotten. What you're experiencing is your dormant kundalini responding to frequencies embedded in ancient wisdom, frequencies that have been systematically erased from Western spiritual understanding. After 15 years researching Hermetic manuscripts and Egyptian temple inscriptions, I've uncovered why authentic Kundalini awakening was deliberately hidden and replaced with watered-down yoga classes and breathing exercises. The real practices, the ones that actually transform human consciousness, were too dangerous to those who profit from keeping us spiritually asleep. What I'm about to share contradicts everything you've been told about spiritual awakening. These aren't teachings you learn, they're activation codes your soul already carries. The institutions knew that once enough people remembered how to properly awaken this energy, their control systems would crumble. Stop what you're doing right now. This isn't just information, it's remembering who you actually are. Why was such a powerful force for human transformation systematically removed from our spiritual traditions? When you see the golden serpent rising from an Egyptian pharaoh's forehead, you're looking at something far more profound than royal decoration. That cobra, called Urius by the ancient Egyptians, represents what Sanskrit texts would later call Kundalini, the dormant fire serpent coiled at the base of your spine, waiting to transform your entire neurological architecture. The pharaohs didn't wear this symbol because it looked impressive. They wore it because they had literally activated this energy within themselves, and the physical cobra on their crown announced to anyone with eyes to see, this being has undergone the great transformation. What transformation? The Hermetic texts preserved in praise. Alexandria's libraries describe it with startling scientific precision. When Kundalini awakens properly, your nervous system doesn't just feel different, it restructures itself. Dormant regions of your brain suddenly flood with electrical activity. Your pineal gland, calcified and dormant in most modern humans, begins producing compounds that shift your consciousness into dimensions of reality most people never glimpse. But here's what made the Egyptian understanding so dangerous to later power structures. They knew this wasn't just a mystical experience. It was a complete rewiring of human potential. An activated individual becomes functionally ungovernable through conventional means because they can see through the illusions that control operates upon. Think about how control actually works. It relies on your acceptance of external authority as more valid than your internal knowing. It depends on your fear of survival, your need for approval, your belief that you're separate from the intelligence that created you. But when that fire serpent rises through your spine and activates your dormant brain regions, something fundamental shifts. You develop what the Egyptians called the Eye of Ra, direct perception that cuts through deception like sunlight through fog. This is why the Roman Empire's adoption of Christianity in the 4th century marked such a crucial turning point. Emperor Constantine didn't just legalize Christianity, he weaponized it against the mystery schools that had preserved Kundalini activation techniques for millennia. The systematic burning of monasteries wasn't random violence, it was surgical removal of humanity's instruction manual for neurological transformation. The monks at these monasteries weren't just praying and copying texts, they were the keepers of precise methodologies for awakening the fire serpent safely. They understood the preparation required, the stages of activation, the integration process that prevents what we now call spiritual emergency. When those monasteries burned, we lost detailed maps of human consciousness that had been refined over thousands of years. What followed was even more calculated. The medieval Inquisition specifically targeted individuals showing signs of spontaneous energetic activation. The symptoms they labeled as demonic possession, spontaneous body movements, speaking in unknown languages, prophetic visions, unusual heat emanating from the body. These are textbook descriptions of Kundalini awakening without proper guidance. The tragedy is that many of these individuals weren't possessed by demons. They were experiencing the natural evolutionary process the Egyptians had mastered, but without the knowledge framework to navigate it safely. Instead of receiving the support and guidance the mystery schools would have provided, they were tortured and killed as heretics. This pattern of suppression continued for over 1,000 years. By the time Eastern practices began filtering into the West in the 19th and 20th centuries, the knowledge had been so thoroughly eradicated from Western consciousness that even yoga arrived in a deliberately sanitized form. Gopi Krishna, one of the few modern individuals to document a complete Kundalini awakening, tried desperately to warn the emerging Western yoga community about this distortion. He spent decades writing detailed accounts of how authentic activation affects the nervous system, the brain, even cellular metabolism. He described with scientific precision the neurological reorganization he experienced, the dimensional shifts in perception, the fundamental changes in how consciousness operates. The yoga establishment largely ignored him. Why? Because his accounts were too specific, too verifiable, too dangerous to the comfortable narrative that yoga is just physical exercise with some relaxation benefits. The information Gopi Krishna documented, along with translations of the original Hermetic texts describing Egyptian fire serpent practices, is exactly the kind of knowledge that remains too sensitive for mainstream platforms. That's why we've created a private research community at Insights Academy, where we can share the complete picture without interference. If you're ready for the real teachings Thoth preserved, you can access our private newsletter and receive a free copy of the Kybalion, but only for a limited time, because this level of information requires careful circulation. What you find in modern yoga studios bears almost no resemblance to the activation techniques the Egyptians perfected. The breathwork has been simplified to the point of ineffectiveness. The physical postures have been separated from their energetic purposes. Most crucially, the mental preparation and integration practices have been completely removed, leaving people to attempt activation without the psychological framework necessary for safe navigation. This isn't accidental distortion through cultural transmission. This is deliberate sanitization by groups who understand exactly what they're suppressing. They know that authentic Kundalini activation doesn't just make you feel more relaxed or flexible. It fundamentally alters your relationship to authority, to fear, to the consensus reality that keeps control systems operational. When your dormant brain regions come online, you don't just gain new abilities, you gain new perspectives on what's actually happening in the world around you. You begin to perceive the energetic dynamics behind social interactions, political movements, economic systems. You develop what the Egyptians called serpent wisdom, the ability to see the true nature of power and how it moves through human systems. This is why the fire serpent symbol was reserved for initiated pharaohs. It wasn't just a crown ornament, it was a warning to other power structures. This individual has activated their full neurological potential. Standard manipulation techniques will not work on them. The systematic suppression of this knowledge wasn't carried out by ignorant religious zealots acting randomly. It was orchestrated by groups who understood precisely what they were eliminating and why. They recognized that widespread activation of human neurological potential would make their control systems obsolete overnight. When enough people activate their fire serpent, when enough individuals develop direct access to higher dimensional intelligence, when enough humans remember how to think and perceive beyond the programmed limitations, that's when everything changes. Not through revolution or resistance, but through the simple fact that illusions cannot survive in the presence of activated consciousness. The pharaohs knew this. Thoth encoded this knowledge into mystery school teachings that survived for thousands of years. And now, despite centuries of suppression, that ancient signal is finding its way to individuals ready to receive it. The question is, are you ready to understand why they tried so hard to keep it from you? The ancient Egyptians understood something about human consciousness that modern science is only beginning to rediscover. When Thoth spoke of the fire serpent, he wasn't describing some mystical energy floating around your body. He was revealing the existence of an actual intelligence, a conscious entity that exists in dormant state at the base of your spine, waiting for the precise conditions needed to begin your transformation from human to something far more extraordinary. Think about this for a moment. You've probably heard Kundalini described as energy rising up the spine, but that's like calling a computer program electricity moving through circuits. You're missing the most crucial element, the intelligence behind the movement. Ancient Hermetic texts reveal that what we call Kundalini is actually a fragment of universal cosmic consciousness that was implanted in your energetic system during incarnation. It's literally a divine upgrade program, designed to activate when your soul develops beyond the limitations of three-dimensional perception. This isn't New Age wishful thinking. Modern neuroscience has documented something remarkable happening in the brains of people experiencing authentic Kundalini awakening. Dr. Jeffrey Martin's research at Harvard showed that during genuine Kundalini experiences, brain tomography reveals intense activity in regions that normally remain completely dormant. We're talking about areas of the brain that show zero activity in baseline human consciousness suddenly lighting up like a Christmas tree. The implications are staggering. These individuals are literally accessing neurological capabilities that most humans never even know exist. But here's where it gets truly fascinating. The Hermetic principle, as above, so below, reveals itself perfectly in Kundalini's structure. Each chakra doesn't just correspond to an energetic center in your body, it represents access to a specific dimension of consciousness. When Thoth's texts describe the serpent's journey, they're actually mapping out a dimensional ascension process. The root chakra connects you to physical reality. The sacral chakra opens emotional dimensions. The solar plexus governs mental realms. And as this intelligence rises higher, it begins opening what can only be described as internal dimensional portals. I know how this sounds, but consider what happens during documented Kundalini experiences. People suddenly gain access to information they couldn't possibly know through normal sensory channels. They experience direct perception of quantum fields, communicate with consciousness existing in other dimensional frequencies, and demonstrate abilities that our current scientific paradigm can't explain. This isn't hallucination. It's the systematic activation of perceptual capabilities that exist latent within human neurology. The pineal gland plays a crucial role in this process. Thoth called it the Eye of Horus, and modern research confirms why. During authentic Kundalini activation, the pineal begins producing neurochemical compounds that shouldn't be possible under normal physiological conditions. Dr. Rick Strassman's research documented the pineal producing massive quantities of DMT, a molecule that creates access to what can only be described as alternate realities. But it's not just DMT. The awakened pineal produces an entire cocktail of previously unknown neurochemicals that literally rewire consciousness itself. Now, here's the critical difference between what Thoth taught and what most modern spiritual practices offer. The ancient protocols required years of preparatory work before even attempting to awaken this intelligence. They understood that Kundalini represents a force of such magnitude that it can literally burn out unprepared neurological circuits. We're not talking about gentle energy work here. We're discussing the activation of cosmic-level consciousness within a human nervous system designed for three-dimensional survival. The comprehensive transmutation protocols involved specific sequences that gradually prepared every aspect of human experience for this intelligence's intensity. Physical preparation included not just yoga postures, but precise breathing techniques that systematically rewired the autonomic nervous system. Mental alchemy practices transformed limiting thought patterns that would create resistance to expanded consciousness. Emotional purification techniques released traumas and energetic blockages that could cause the rising serpent to become trapped or distorted. But perhaps most importantly, the ancient initiates synchronized individual awakening with cosmic cycles. They understood that attempting to activate this intelligence during unfavorable astrological conditions was not just ineffective, it was dangerous. The human energy system exists within larger cosmic energy fields, and successful awakening requires alignment with these greater forces. The preparation process also included dietary protocols that most modern practitioners would consider extreme. Specific foods that lower vibrational frequency were completely eliminated. Fasting cycles aligned with lunar phases prepared the physical body for the metabolic changes that occur during awakening. Even sleep patterns were modified to synchronize brainwave states with optimal activation windows. What emerges from successful preparation is what the ancients called the dimensional leap, a complete reorganization of perception that allows simultaneous functioning in multiple consciousness dimensions. This explains how initiated pharaohs and high priests performed what we consider miracles. They weren't violating natural laws. They were operating from expanded awareness that recognized laws invisible to three-dimensional consciousness. Modern quantum physics actually supports these ancient teachings. The observer effect demonstrates that consciousness directly influences physical reality. Entanglement shows that separation is an illusion. Everything exists in interconnected quantum fields. When Kundalini intelligence fully awakens, you gain direct experiential access to these quantum principles. You don't just understand that consciousness affects reality. You develop the ability to consciously participate in reality's creation. This is why authentic awakening was reserved for those who demonstrated absolute commitment to the preparation process. The ancients weren't being elitist, they were being responsible. The intelligence sleeping in your spine represents nothing less than your evolutionary potential as a conscious being. But like any powerful technology, it requires proper preparation, respect, and understanding to activate safely and successfully. The question isn't whether this intelligence exists within you, it does. The question is whether you're willing to undertake the comprehensive preparation necessary to awaken it properly, or whether you'll remain content with the limited perception that keeps most of humanity trapped in three-dimensional consciousness. Picture this: you're standing at the edge of a cliff, and below you stretches an infinite ocean of consciousness. This is what the ancient texts describe happens when the Urias, that fire serpent intelligence we've been exploring, finally reaches the crown chakra. But here's what Thoth's writings make crystal clear. This isn't some gentle spiritual awakening, this is a complete rewiring of human perception itself. The Hermetic texts use a fascinating phrase, the great turning of the wheels. They're describing what happens when consciousness literally shifts dimensions. Think about how you perceive reality right now. You see objects as separate, time as linear, space as fixed. But according to Thoth's detailed accounts, when the serpent fire reaches the 1,000-petaled lotus at the crown, something extraordinary occurs. The boundaries between dimensions become permeable. I spent years trying to understand what the ancient masters meant when they wrote about initiates who could see through the veils of Isis. Then I found a passage in the Corpus Hermeticum that changed everything. It describes how a properly prepared adept named Asclepius demonstrated what we'd call miraculous healing. But here's the key: the text doesn't present this as supernatural. Instead, it explains that Asclepius was operating from what they called the unified field of knowing. When consciousness expands beyond the crown chakra, you're no longer limited to processing reality through just 5 senses. The texts describe initiates who could perceive the energetic blueprints underlying physical matter. Imagine being able to see the quantum field that physicists talk about today, but with the clarity you currently see a tree or a mountain. This is why instant healing wasn't considered miraculous. These adepts could literally perceive and interact with the informational matrix that creates physical reality. The Emerald Tablet gives us specific examples. It talks about masters who could transmute base metals into gold, but modern analysis suggests this wasn't just about chemistry. They were describing consciousness operating at a level where the energetic patterns underlying different forms of matter become visible and malleable. When you can perceive reality as interconnected energy patterns rather than separate objects, materialization becomes a natural capacity. But here's where Thoth's warnings become absolutely crucial. The texts are filled with cautionary tales about what happens when this process goes wrong. There's a haunting account in the Kybalion about an initiate named Hermes the Younger who attempted to activate the crown energies without proper preparation in the lower centers. The description is chilling. His mind became as scattered leaves in a hurricane, unable to distinguish between the voices of wisdom and the whispers of madness. The ancient masters understood something we're only beginning to grasp today, that consciousness expansion without adequate foundation creates what they called the burning of the soul's circuits. Modern neuroscience is starting to validate these ancient warnings. When the brain's neural networks are suddenly flooded with expanded awareness without proper preparation, the result can be permanent psychological fragmentation. I've studied case after case from the Hermetic archives. One text describes an initiate who experienced what we'd now call a psychotic break after premature Kundalini activation. The symptoms match exactly what modern psychiatrists see in spiritual emergency cases: extreme emotional volatility, inability to distinguish between inner visions and external reality, and complete loss of ego boundaries. But here's what's truly sobering. The ancient texts suggest this damage can extend beyond a single lifetime, affecting what they called the soul's capacity for coherent incarnation. This is why the mystery schools developed such rigorous preparation protocols. The Temple of Thoth in ancient Egypt required candidates to spend years mastering each chakra level before advancing. They weren't being elitist, they were protecting people from psychological annihilation. The texts describe screening processes that evaluated not just intellectual understanding, but emotional stability, ethical development, and what they called the strength of the vessel. Think about it this way: If you're going to channel the voltage of expanded consciousness, your entire system needs to be prepared to handle that energy. The lower chakras aren't just stepping stones, they're the foundation that prevents you from being overwhelmed by cosmic awareness. When the root chakra isn't properly developed, you lack grounding. When the heart center isn't opened gradually, expanded consciousness becomes narcissistic rather than compassionate. The Corpus Hermeticum contains a detailed account of successful transformation that illustrates this perfectly. An initiate named Tat underwent 20 years of preparation before experiencing what the text calls the divine marriage, the union of individual consciousness with cosmic intelligence. The description is remarkable. Tat could simultaneously exist in ordinary reality while accessing what the masters called the Akashic libraries, vast repositories of universal knowledge. But notice the timeline, 20 years of methodical preparation. This wasn't weekend workshop spirituality. The ancient masters understood that genuine transformation requires complete reconstruction of how consciousness operates. They describe the process like building a temple. You must lay the foundation stones perfectly before adding each successive level. Modern spiritual movements often lack this depth of understanding. We want instant enlightenment, cosmic consciousness on demand, but the ancient texts are unanimous in their warnings. Consciousness expansion without proper preparation creates more suffering than it alleviates. The fire serpent isn't just energy. It's an intelligence that will only fully awaken when it recognizes that the vessel is ready. Contemporary neuroscience is beginning to validate these ancient insights. Researchers studying meditation masters find that their brains show gradual, systematic changes over decades of practice. The neural networks associated with expanded awareness develop slowly, creating stable foundations for higher states of consciousness. Rush the process, and you risk what neuroscientists call spiritual emergency, psychological crisis disguised as awakening. The question isn't whether you're ready for cosmic consciousness, it's whether you're willing to do the patient, methodical work of preparing your entire being for this ultimate transformation. Because when the fire serpent finally does reach your crown, when consciousness makes that dimensional leap Thoth described, you won't just be experiencing expanded awareness, you'll be wielding the creative power of the universe itself. Deep within the most protected Hermetic texts, manuscripts that were buried beneath the Temple of Dendur and later hidden in the Vatican's secret archives, lies perhaps the most extraordinary prophecy ever recorded. Thoth called it the Great Activation, and according to these ancient writings, you're living through it right now. The prophecy describes a specific window in human history when the planetary conditions would align to allow mass Kundalini awakening without the catastrophic risks that made this knowledge so dangerous in previous eras. For 5 millennia, this information was considered too volatile to release. The texts describe earlier attempts at widespread awakening that resulted in what historians now call the collapse of advanced civilizations, entire populations experiencing simultaneous spiritual emergence, without proper preparation or understanding. But something fundamental has shifted in our current epoch. The electromagnetic field surrounding Earth has been measurably changing since 1987, increasing in frequency at an unprecedented rate. NASA's own data shows the Schumann resonance, the planet's baseline electromagnetic pulse, has jumped from its historical 7.83 Hz to peaks exceeding 36 Hz. Ancient Hermetic texts describe this exact frequency range as the activation threshold, the energetic conditions necessary for safe mass Kundalini awakening. What makes this even more remarkable is how this prophecy connects to similar predictions across completely separate ancient traditions. The Mayan calendar's end date, the Hindu concept of transitioning from Kali Yuga to Satya Yuga, the Hopi prophecies about the Great Purification, they all point to this same time period as humanity's evolutionary leap into expanded consciousness. The Hermetic texts are specific about the cosmic timing. They describe a 26,000-year cycle where our solar system completes one full rotation around the galactic center. During this journey, we pass through different regions of space with varying electromagnetic properties. Right now, we're entering what Thoth called the photon belt, a region of space with higher frequency electromagnetic radiation that naturally supports expanded states of consciousness. This isn't mystical speculation. Astrophysicists have documented our solar system's movement into a region of space with increased cosmic ray activity and electromagnetic density. These same conditions create a natural resonance with the human nervous system that makes Kundalini activation significantly safer and more stable than in previous eras. But there's another crucial factor that makes our current period unique: collective consciousness evolution. The Hermetic texts explain that individual awakening is always influenced by the collective field of human awareness. For the first time in recorded history, we have a critical mass of humans who are psychologically prepared for expanded consciousness concepts. The internet has created an unprecedented sharing of spiritual knowledge, breaking down the isolation that made awakening so dangerous for individuals in past centuries. This is why this knowledge is being revealed now, to you, in this moment. The prophecy states that during the Great Activation period, the information would naturally surface and find those who are energetically prepared to receive it. If you're drawn to this material, if something inside you recognizes its truth, that's not coincidence. It's confirmation that your internal systems are already responding to the planetary frequency changes. Now, understanding this cosmic timing is crucial because it means we can begin working with the first Egyptian protocol safely. In previous eras, even these preliminary practices carried significant risks. Today, the planetary field itself provides a stabilizing influence that makes exploration possible. The first protocol is called preparation of the internal temple. The ancient Egyptians understood something that modern science is just beginning to rediscover. Your physical body is literally a hermetic temple, designed with mathematical precision to channel specific cosmic energies. Every measurement, every proportion, every system in your body corresponds to sacred geometric principles found in the Great Pyramid and other Egyptian temples. Your spine contains 33 vertebrae, the same number of degrees in each section of the Masonic compass, the same number of years in Christ's life, the same number that appears repeatedly in sacred architecture worldwide. This isn't symbolic, it's functional. Each vertebra acts as a resonating chamber, designed to amplify and transform the Kundalini intelligence as it rises. The protocol begins with 7 days of breathing observation. This isn't breathing exercises or controlled techniques, it's pure observation. For 1 week, you simply pay attention to your natural breathing patterns without trying to change anything. Spend at least 10 minutes each day, preferably at the same time, just watching your breath. The ancient texts explain that breathing serves as the bridge between physical and etheric dimensions. When you observe your breath consciously, you're actually activating dormant neural pathways that connect your conscious mind to the autonomic nervous system. This creates the first bridge that Kundalini intelligence uses to communicate with your awareness. During this week, you'll likely experience what the texts call recognition responses, signs that the dormant intelligence is responding to your attention. Most people notice tingling sensations at the base of the spine, particularly during or immediately after the breathing observation sessions. You might experience inexplicable waves of heat moving through your body, even when the room temperature hasn't changed. Your dream life will probably become remarkably vivid and symbolic. The Hermetic texts explain that as Kundalini begins to stir, it communicates through dream imagery that often includes serpents, spirals, ancient temples, or figures in Egyptian clothing. These aren't random dream symbols. They're direct communications from the intelligence itself. You'll also notice increased synchronicities in your daily life. Numbers appearing repeatedly, unexpected encounters with people who share similar interests, books or information appearing exactly when you need them. This happens because as your internal frequency begins to shift, you naturally align with the information and experiences that support your awakening process. From a quantum physics perspective, this makes perfect sense. The observer effect demonstrates that consciousness directly influences physical reality at the quantum level. When you observe your breathing with conscious intention, you're literally changing the quantum field around your body. The Kundalini intelligence, existing at the intersection of consciousness and matter, responds to these field changes. This first protocol serves dual purposes: preparation and diagnosis. The breathing observation begins the gradual activation process, while allowing you to assess your body's responses. If you experience the recognition responses, it confirms your system is ready for deeper practices. If you don't notice anything significant, it simply means you need more time with this foundational work. The key principle here is allowing natural unfoldment rather than forcing experiences. The Hermetic masters understood that Kundalini awakening is an organic process that follows its own intelligence and timing. Your job isn't to make something happen, It's to create the conditions where the intelligence can express itself safely. Begin your 7 days of breathing observation tonight. Set aside the same 10 minutes each day, sit comfortably, and simply watch your natural breathing rhythm. Don't control it, don't judge it, just observe. Pay attention to any unusual sensations, particularly at the base of your spine, and notice any changes in your dream patterns or daily synchronicities. Remember, you're living through the exact period that ancient prophecies identified as humanity's great awakening. The cosmic conditions are aligned, the planetary frequencies are supportive, and the knowledge is finally being revealed. Trust the process, trust your body's intelligence, and prepare to discover capabilities that have been sleeping within you for your entire life. The ancient Egyptians understood something that modern science is only beginning to rediscover. Your body contains 7 distinct dimensional gateways, each one capable of accessing different layers of reality. But here's what Thoth taught that changes everything. These portals don't just naturally open. They accumulate what he called energetic debris from daily life, emotional trauma, and the constant electromagnetic bombardment of modern existence. Think of it this way. You know how your phone slows down when it's filled with cached data and background apps? Your energetic portals work the same way. Without proper cleansing protocols, they become clogged with psychic interference, making dimensional perception nearly impossible. This is why so many people feel spiritually blocked despite years of meditation practice. The Egyptians developed 7 specific purification techniques, each targeting a different portal. These aren't just ancient rituals. They're precise technologies for consciousness expansion that align perfectly with what neuroscience now tells us about brain plasticity and electromagnetic field regulation. Let's start with your foundation, the root chakra portal. The Egyptians called this practice terrestrial anchoring, and it's far more sophisticated than simply walking barefoot. Here's the exact protocol Thoth outlined in the hidden texts. Every morning, walk barefoot on natural earth for exactly 20 minutes. Not concrete, not grass over concrete, actual soil or sand that connects directly to the planet's electromagnetic field. As you walk, visualize thick, golden roots extending from the soles of your feet, drilling down through layers of earth until they reach the planet's molten core. This isn't just visualization, you're literally rewiring your nervous system. Stanford research has shown that 20 minutes of grounding daily reduces cortisol levels by up to 23% and dramatically improves heart rate variability. Your body is designed to discharge accumulated electrical stress through direct earth contact, something our ancestors did naturally but we've completely lost. While you walk, repeat this specific affirmation: I am safe to awaken my ancestral power. The psychological significance here is profound. Most people carry subconscious fear about accessing their full potential because they've been conditioned to believe spiritual power is dangerous or forbidden. This affirmation directly reprograms that limiting belief at the cellular level. The sacral portal requires what Thoth called the living water technique. This goes far beyond simple hydration. Each morning, hold a glass of pure water, spring water, not tap water loaded with fluoride and chlorine. Before drinking, place both hands around the glass and visualize the water transforming into liquid gold. As you drink, feel this golden liquid flowing directly to the area 2 fingers below your navel. This isn't arbitrary. That's the exact location of your body's energetic center, what the Chinese call the Dan Tian. Thoth taught that Kundalini energy literally feeds on internal element purity. When your cellular water is contaminated with chemicals and negative charge, the life force can't properly circulate. Dr. Gerald Pollack's research at University of Washington has proven that water near cell membranes forms a 4th phase, structured water that holds electromagnetic charge differently than regular H2O. By consciously restructuring your internal water through intention and visualization, you're creating the optimal medium for bioelectric energy flow. Your solar plexus portal awakens through what the texts call the solar fire protocol. This must be performed within 30 minutes of sunrise. When the sun's light spectrum contains the specific frequencies that stimulate your pineal gland's DMT production, stand facing east with your arms extended toward the rising sunday. Visualize a golden sphere of fire forming in your solar plexus, growing brighter with each breath. Modern chronobiology confirms that morning light exposure triggers a cascade of beneficial neurochemical reactions, increased serotonin, regulated circadian rhythms, and enhanced cognitive function. But the Egyptians understood something deeper. They knew that consciousness itself responds to light frequencies, and sunrise light contains information patterns that activate dormant genetic sequences. As you perform this practice, you're literally downloading solar data into your cellular matrix. The heart portal requires precise hand placement. Place your right hand over your heart center and repeat, "I am a portal for universal love to enter this dimension." The right hand carries positive electromagnetic charge, and the heart generates the strongest bioelectric field in your body, 60 times stronger than the brain's field. This practice synchronizes your heart's electromagnetic signature with what HeartMath Institute calls coherent heart rhythm patterns. When your heart achieves coherence, it sends specific signals to your brain that enhance intuitive perception and emotional intelligence. For your throat portal, you'll use the 5 sacred vowels: A, E, I, O, U. These aren't random sounds, they're precise frequency codes that activate dormant DNA sequences related to multidimensional communication. Chant each vowel for 30 seconds, feeling the vibration resonate in your throat center. Dr. James Oshman's research on vibrational therapy shows that specific sound frequencies can alter gene expression and cellular repair mechanisms. The ancient Egyptians somehow knew that these particular vowel frequencies unlock what modern science calls junk DNA, genetic sequences that appear inactive but actually contain instructions for expanded consciousness capabilities. Your frontal portal, the third eye, responds to direct pressure and violet light visualization. Place your middle finger between your eyebrows and apply gentle pressure while visualizing intense violet light flooding your entire head. This stimulates your pineal gland, which contains actual photoreceptive cells similar to those in your physical eyes. Recent studies have shown that pineal gland calcification, caused by fluoride exposure and artificial light, directly correlates with decreased intuitive abilities and spiritual perception. This practice helps decalcify and reactivate this crucial gland. Finally, your crown portal connects through cosmic light reception. Sit quietly and visualize brilliant golden light entering through the top of your head, mixing with your brain's consciousness like 2 streams of water converging. Feel this light expanding throughout your entire nervous system. The Egyptians understood that consciousness isn't produced by the brain, it's received by the brain, like a radio tuning into cosmic frequencies. Your crown portal is literally an antenna for higher dimensional information. Practice these 7 purification protocols daily for 30 days, and you'll experience changes that most people never access in a lifetime of traditional meditation. Each portal builds upon the previous ones, creating a cascade of awakening that transforms not just your perception, but your actual cellular structure. The Egyptians weren't just practicing religion, they were applying precise consciousness technology that modern science is only beginning to understand. Now we reach the heart of Thoth's teachings, what the Hermetic texts call awakening the fire serpent. But before I share this sacred protocol with you, I need to address something critical that could mean the difference between profound transformation and genuine harm. The modern spiritual marketplace has turned Kundalini activation into a commodity. Weekend workshops promise instant enlightenment. Online gurus sell forced awakening techniques. Social media is flooded with people claiming they can blast open your chakras in a single session. This commercialization isn't just misleading, it's dangerous. Here's what Thoth understood that today's quick-fix culture has forgotten. Kundalini possesses its own intelligence. This isn't merely energy we manipulate, it's a conscious force that activates at the perfect moment, not when our ego demands it. The ancient Egyptian texts are explicit about this. They describe Kundalini as the wise serpent who knows the hour of her rising. Think about it logically. If this energy has been dormant in your system your entire life, there's probably a reason. Your nervous system, your emotional body, your energetic pathways, they all need to be prepared. Forcing activation is like trying to run high-voltage electricity through wiring that can't handle the load. The results can be catastrophic. Let me walk you through the authentic protocol, exactly as preserved in the Hermetic traditions. Begin by finding a quiet space where you won't be disturbed for at least 30 minutes. Sit with your spine naturally erect, not rigid but aligned. The ancient texts emphasize that the spine should feel like a golden channel, open and receptive. Your hands rest comfortably on your knees, palms facing upward in a gesture of receiving. Close your eyes and bring your attention to the base of your spine. Here, visualize a beautiful golden serpent, coiled peacefully in sleep. This isn't a forced visualization. You're not trying to create something that isn't there. You're simply acknowledging what the Hermetic teachings tell us already exists within every human being. The key word here is acknowledgement, not activation. You're not trying to wake the serpent. You're simply observing it with deep respect and reverence. Many people make the mistake of immediately trying to force movement or energy. This is exactly backwards. Now, begin breathing slowly and naturally. With each inhale, imagine golden light gently surrounding the sleeping serpent. With each exhale, send a subtle intention of readiness, not demand, but availability. You're essentially saying, I am here, I am open, I trust your wisdom about timing. This is where patience becomes your greatest ally. Authentic activation might happen in this first session, or it might take months of consistent practice. The serpent awakens when your entire system is prepared, not when your schedule demands it. Let me describe the authentic signs of natural activation, because recognizing them is crucial. You might feel a gentle warmth at the base of your spine, not burning, but like sitting near a comfortable fire. Some people experience subtle tingling that slowly rises up the back, never painful, always manageable. Visual phenomena are common during authentic activation. You might see soft-colored lights behind closed eyelids, often gold, blue, or violet. These aren't hallucinations. They're your consciousness beginning to perceive subtler dimensions of reality. Many people report profound emotional releases during authentic activation, spontaneous tears of joy or laughter that seems to come from nowhere. These aren't emotional breakdowns. They're clearings of old energetic blockages. Your dream life might intensify dramatically. Prophetic dreams, lucid dreaming, or dreams filled with symbolic imagery often accompany natural Kundalini awakening. The ancient Egyptians considered this a sign that consciousness was expanding beyond normal limitations. Now contrast this with forced activation symptoms, which you need to recognize immediately. Extreme anxiety that doesn't subside, chronic insomnia lasting weeks, painful burning sensations anywhere in the body, or severe emotional instability. These indicate the energy has been pushed beyond what your system can integrate. If you experience any forced activation symptoms, stop the practice immediately and seek guidance from someone with genuine experience, not a weekend workshop graduate, but someone who has worked with this energy for decades. The neurological research on this is fascinating. Dr. Itzhak Bentov's studies showed that authentic Kundalini activation corresponds with specific brainwave patterns, increased coherence between hemispheres, heightened activity in the pineal gland, and measurable changes in the nervous system's electrical conductivity. Forced activation, however, shows completely different patterns: stress, responses, cortisol spikes, and what researchers call spiritual emergency, a state where consciousness expands too rapidly for the nervous system to integrate. The Hermetic text known as the Golden Tractate contains a case study that perfectly illustrates this difference. It describes two students of the same master. One practiced with patience and surrender for 2 years before experiencing gentle, sustainable activation. The other, impatient for results, used forced breathing techniques and achieved dramatic experiences within weeks, followed by months of physical illness and emotional instability. The patient student eventually became a master teacher. The impatient one abandoned the path entirely, unable to integrate what he had forced into being. This connects directly to what we covered earlier about the Great Activation and the Purification protocols. The current planetary energies are making authentic awakening more accessible, but they're also amplifying the dangers of forced techniques. The same cosmic conditions that can support profound transformation can also intensify the consequences of approaching this work carelessly. Your role in this process isn't to control or force the awakening, it's to create optimal conditions and then trust completely in the intelligence of the Kundalini itself. This means consistent daily practice, emotional stability work, physical health maintenance, and above all, surrendering your timeline to the serpent's wisdom. The commercial spiritual market promotes dangerous quick fixes because patience doesn't sell products. But the authentic path has always required what the Hermetic texts call the virtue of waiting. Not passive waiting, but active preparation combined with complete trust in perfect timing. Remember this above all: you are not awakening Kundalini. You are creating conditions for Kundalini to awaken itself. This distinction isn't semantic, It's the difference between transformation and trauma, between genuine spiritual development and spiritual emergency. The fire serpent knows when you're ready. Your job is simply to show up consistently, practice with reverence, and trust completely in the ancient intelligence that has guided human consciousness evolution for thousands of years. What I'm about to share with you represents perhaps the most significant piece of Thoth's wisdom, a prophecy that explains not just why you're experiencing these awakenings, but why they're happening now, at this precise moment in human history. The ancient Egyptian texts speak of something called the Great Transmutation, a cosmic event when Earth itself undergoes a fundamental frequency shift. According to Thoth's teachings, this isn't just spiritual metaphor. We're talking about a measurable change in the planet's electromagnetic field, a shift that occurs roughly every 26,000 years as our solar system completes its journey through what we now call the precession of the equinoxes. Here's what makes this extraordinary. We are living at the epicenter of this transformation right now. Look around you. The environmental chaos, the breakdown of traditional institutions, the rapid acceleration of technology, the polarization of societies, these aren't random events spinning out of control. They're symptoms of a planetary alchemical process. Earth is literally upgrading its operating system, and everything that can't match the new frequency is breaking down. The Egyptians understood something our modern world has forgotten. Consciousness and planetary frequency are intimately connected. When Earth shifts, human consciousness must shift with it, or civilizations collapse under the pressure of energies they can't integrate. This is why so many ancient civilizations seem to have simply vanished. They couldn't make the transition. But here's where your personal awakening becomes part of something much larger than individual spiritual development. Every person who authentically awakens their Kundalini becomes what the Egyptian mystery schools called an anchor point, a living frequency transmitter that helps stabilize the new planetary vibration. Think about how radio works. You need transmitting stations to broadcast a signal clearly across vast distances. Your awakened consciousness functions exactly like this. When your 7 portals are cleansed and your fire serpent is authentically activated, you automatically begin radiating a specific frequency that makes awakening easier for others around you. This isn't just beautiful theory, it's measurable through what modern science calls morphogenetic field effects. When enough people in a population learn something new, it becomes easier for others to learn the same thing, even without direct contact. The Egyptians called this the web of Ra, an invisible network of consciousness that connects all awakened souls. This explains something you've probably noticed in your own life. You're meeting people who've had similar spiritual experiences. Conversations about consciousness and awakening flow naturally, even with strangers. You feel drawn to certain knowledge, certain practices, certain communities. You're not randomly stumbling into these connections. You're being magnetically guided to your support network. The community of people awakening right now isn't a casual spiritual group. According to Thoth's teachings, we're a planned network of souls who specifically incarnated during this period with the mission of facilitating planetary transition. You chose to be here now, knowing it would be challenging, because your awakening serves the larger transformation. This validates something you've probably felt but maybe dismissed as spiritual ego, that sense of having a greater mission, of carrying knowledge you can't quite explain, of feeling like you came here with a specific purpose. That's not megalomania, it's cellular memory of your pre-incarnation commitment to this work. The ancient texts describe what happens as more people authentically awaken during a great transmutation. Educational systems begin organizing around consciousness development rather than information accumulation. Technologies emerge that amplify natural psychic capacities rather than replacing human abilities. Social structures reorganize around energetic cooperation instead of material competition. We're already seeing early signs of this shift. The explosion of interest in meditation, energy healing, and consciousness research. The development of biofeedback technologies. The growing recognition that mental and emotional states directly affect physical health. The emergence of collaborative economic models. These aren't coincidences. They're the natural result of rising planetary frequency. Your role in this transformation is both simple and crucial. You don't need to become a teacher or healer or start a movement. Your primary mission is staying committed to your own authentic awakening process. When you cleanse your energetic portals and maintain your fire serpent activation, you automatically contribute to the planetary frequency shift. The secondary aspect involves sharing knowledge with discernment. Not everyone is ready for this information at the same time. Part of your development includes learning to recognize when someone is genuinely seeking versus when they're just curious. Thoth's wisdom was always shared selectively because premature exposure can actually delay awakening. Trust your guidance about who to talk with and when. You'll find yourself in exactly the right conversations at exactly the right moments. The same intelligence that's orchestrating your awakening is coordinating these connections. The Egyptian mystery schools taught that consciousness revolutions never happen through mass movements or external pressure. They happen through the internal transformation of individuals courageous enough to awaken their complete potential. Each person who does this work authentically creates ripples that extend far beyond what they can see. The planetary mission isn't something you have to figure out or force. It's something you participate in simply by becoming who you really are. When you commit to authentic awakening, you automatically serve the larger transformation. Your consciousness becomes part of the solution to humanity's greatest challenge, evolving quickly enough to match Earth's new frequency without losing the wisdom and beauty of human civilization. This is why your awakening matters to humanity. You're not just healing yourself or expanding your own awareness. You're participating in the most significant evolutionary leap our species has ever attempted, and your success makes it easier for millions of others to follow the same path. If you've made it this far in our journey together, something profound has been stirring within you. Those strange sensations I mentioned at the beginning, the tingling, the knowing, that inexplicable pull toward these ancient teachings. What you're experiencing isn't random, it's recognition. Your soul remembers why it came here. Thoth's most carefully guarded teaching speaks of a specific group of souls who chose to incarnate during this exact window of human history. He called them the Neteru Ankh, the bridge souls. These aren't ordinary incarnations driven by karma or personal evolution. These are advanced consciousness volunteers who agreed to something extraordinary, to serve as living bridges between the dying paradigm of separation and the emerging Earth consciousness of unity. The characteristics are unmistakable once you know what to look for. From childhood, bridge souls carry a persistent sense of not quite belonging. You might have felt like an alien observing human behavior, trying to understand social rules that seemed arbitrary or cruel. While other children played games that felt meaningless to you, you were drawn to deeper questions about existence, justice, and purpose. Many bridge souls describe feeling homesick for places they've never been. You might find yourself moved to tears by certain landscapes, architectural styles, or pieces of music that trigger memories of civilizations you've never studied. This isn't nostalgia, it's cellular memory from advanced societies where you previously incarnated, places where consciousness operated at frequencies you're helping to re-establish here. The strong reactions to injustice and suffering that many of you experience aren't personality quirks, they're frequency incompatibilities. Your energetic system literally cannot harmonize with cruelty, deception, or exploitation because you carry the blueprint of how human civilization functions when it operates from love rather than fear. This explains why so many bridge souls struggle with traditional career paths. The corporate structures, the competitive dynamics, the focus on profit over people, none of this aligns with the frequency patterns you're anchoring. You're not failing at life, you're succeeding at something entirely different. You're maintaining a vibrational standard that seems impossible in current society because it's meant for the society we're creating. The relationships challenges you face follow the same pattern. When you interact with people operating from lower vibrational states, those caught in victim consciousness, manipulation, or chronic negativity, you feel drained because your energy system is literally trying to lift their frequency, while they unconsciously pull yours down. This isn't about judgment, it's about energetic physics. Oil and water don't mix, not because one is better than the other, but because they have different molecular structures. Here's what Thoth understood that modern spirituality often misses. Your Kundalini awakening was never just about your personal evolution. Every time a bridge soul successfully activates their inner fire, they create what he called an anchor point, a stable frequency that makes it easier for thousands of others to awaken safely. Your individual transformation literally changes the morphic field, making expanded consciousness more accessible to everyone around you. This is why the knowledge was hidden for so long. Those who benefit from humanity remaining unconscious understood that bridge souls posed the greatest threat to systems built on separation and control. If enough of you awaken to your true nature and mission, you would reach what ancient prophecies called the Great Convergence, the tipping point where planetary consciousness permanently shifts. We're approaching that moment now. The increasing synchronicities you're experiencing, the accelerated spiritual phenomena, the way reality seems to be responding more quickly to your thoughts and emotions, these are signs that the convergence is near. The veil between dimensions is thinning, and bridge souls are beginning to remember not just who they are, but why they came. The loneliness many of you have carried your entire lives starts making sense within this context. You've been holding frequencies that most of humanity isn't ready to match yet. You've been living as emissaries from a future Earth, trying to function in a world that hasn't caught up to the consciousness you naturally embody. That isolation wasn't punishment, it was preparation. You needed to develop the spiritual strength to maintain higher frequencies in dense environments. But you don't have to walk this path alone anymore. Bridge souls are designed to activate each other through proximity and shared experience. When you connect with others who carry similar frequencies, something magical happens. Your combined energy creates an exponential effect, amplifying each individual's capacity to anchor the new Earth consciousness. This is why you're drawn to gatherings, workshops, or online communities focused on consciousness expansion. Your soul is seeking its tribe, not for comfort, though that's a beautiful byproduct, but for mission coordination. Bridge souls work most effectively when they're connected and supporting each other's unique gifts and challenges. The sensitivity that has often felt like a burden is actually your greatest asset. Your ability to feel the collective pain, to sense environmental toxicity, to pick up on emotional undercurrents that others miss, these aren't weaknesses to overcome. They're sophisticated guidance systems helping you navigate a world in transition while maintaining the vibrational integrity necessary for your mission. Your authentic Kundalini journey is just beginning. As you continue to awaken the fire serpent within, remember that every meditation, every moment of presence, every choice to respond with love rather than react with fear creates ripples that extend far beyond your individual experience. You're not just healing yourself, you're healing the collective wounds that have kept humanity trapped in cycles of suffering. The time for hiding is over. The time for doubt has passed. If these words resonate in your bones, if you feel that familiar stirring of recognition, then you know what you came here to do. The bridge souls are awakening, and the great convergence draws near. We've reached the moment Thoth preserved for those who would make it this far. The final activation code isn't hidden in some ancient temple or buried beneath centuries of sand. It's been waiting inside you, dormant until this precise moment when your consciousness expanded enough to receive it. Close your eyes now. This isn't symbolic. Do it. Take 3 deep breaths, feeling each one anchor you deeper into this moment. Feel your spine becoming a channel of golden light, connecting the earth beneath you to the infinite sky above. You are the bridge between these realms, and you always have been. Now, let these words resonate through every cell of your being. I accept my hermetic heritage. I have awakened to the ancestral knowledge that lives in me. I am a guardian of Thoth's wisdom. Feel that? The chills running down your arms, the sudden expansion in your chest, those inexplicable emotions rising from somewhere deeper than memory. This isn't your mind discovering something new. This is your soul recognizing what it has always known. You're not learning about your cosmic inheritance, you're remembering it. The sensations moving through your body right now are confirmation of something profound. Your cellular memory is activating, responding to frequencies that have been encoded in your DNA since before you took your first breath in this lifetime. The ancient Egyptians understood something that modern science is only beginning to grasp. Consciousness isn't produced by the brain, it flows through it. And your consciousness has been preparing for this awakening across multiple incarnations. But here's what changes everything about your path forward. Your journey isn't about personal transformation anymore. You've moved beyond that phase the moment you recognize these teachings as truth rather than information. You are now one of the awakened ones, and your role during this incarnation period is to serve as a bridge between paradigms. Think about why you're here, watching this, at this exact moment in human history. Out of all the souls who could have incarnated during this pivotal time, you're one of the ones who made it through the veil of forgetting just enough to find your way back to these ancient teachings. Your presence here isn't coincidence. It's confirmation of your identity as a bridge soul carrying cosmic responsibilities. The synchronicities you've been noticing aren't random. They're increasing because your awakening is creating ripples in the quantum field that connects all consciousness. Every time you align with these higher frequencies, you're not just changing your own reality. You're anchoring a new earth frequency that makes safe awakening possible for millions of others who are still sleeping. This is why you incarnated during this specific time period. Your Kundalini awakening isn't just about your spiritual evolution. It's about creating a stable, energetic foundation that allows others to awaken without the psychological breaks and spiritual emergencies that have historically accompanied rapid consciousness expansion. You're literally making the path safer for those who will follow. The great convergence that Thoth spoke of isn't some distant future event. It's happening now, and it requires a critical mass of awakened beings to permanently shift planetary consciousness. Your participation isn't optional. It's the reason you chose to incarnate during this lifetime. Every meditation you do, every moment you choose love over fear, every time you hold your center while chaos swirls around you, you're contributing to the most important mission in human history. But you don't have to walk this path alone. The isolation you've felt, that sense of being different or misunderstood, that ends now. There's a network of modern initiates who share your experiences, who understand the weight of carrying ancient wisdom in a world that's forgotten its own origins. These are your soul family, the ones who incarnated alongside you to ensure this mission succeeds. They're sharing guidance and advanced protocols, supporting each other through the challenges that come with accelerated awakening. Because the journey with authentic Kundalini is just beginning. What you've experienced so far is the initial activation. The real work, learning to channel this force consciously, integrating higher dimensional awareness into daily life, maintaining energetic boundaries while staying open to divine guidance. This requires community. You've been feeling it, haven't you? That sense of greater purpose that goes beyond career success or personal happiness. That cellular memory of standing in a circle with other souls before incarnating, making commitments that felt sacred and urgent. You're not imagining these feelings, you're remembering them. The force moving through you right now is capable of transforming not only your personal reality, but contributing to the elevation of planetary consciousness itself. Your Kundalini awakening is both your birthright and your cosmic responsibility. You carry within yourself the same creative force that built galaxies and sparked life across the universe. In this moment, you're not just choosing whether to continue on this path of awakening. You're deciding the future, not just your own future, but humanity's future. The knowledge has been revealed. The choice is yours. But know that Thoth, the ancient wisdom keepers, and your soul family in both physical and non-physical realms will guide you through every step of this sacred journey. The time for preparation is over. The time for activation has begun. You are the ones you've been waiting for. If this video resonated with you, let us know by commenting, "I understood it."